Greetings. I am Pastor Bree, and this is Pastor Eric, and we're joining you from Mountain View Lutheran Church with our summer video series on the 10 Commandments. And throughout the summer, we have been looking at each commandment and talking about how these commands were given from God, originally to the people as they fled from Egypt and were freed from Pharaoh by God, but also how they are still given to us today for our freedom, in that same spirit of freedom for God's people and God's community. So we're finally at the end of the last two commandments.
Yeah.
We started off with the commandments about God, God being our only God and not taking God's name in vain. And we moved on to commandments about Sabbath and honoring parents, and then into all of the commandments about community and how we live together. So the final of these commandments is about not coveting someone else's house or spouse or property. And so all of these last two kind of fit together in a sense, both about coveting. And in many ways, these final two commandments are the most internal, we might say.
It's not really kind of it does maybe lead to external behaviors and words, but it really is kind of an introspective kind of commandment.
Yeah, it's more about our thoughts and attitudes towards others rather than our actions or our words about others, which the other commandments have focused more on. And in many ways, I mean, we could probably say this is about envy to some extent, how envy impacts our lives. And one way we might think of that is the assumption that when we see other people thinking that the grass is somehow greener in their life, right? That they have something in their life that's so much better than what we have, or that we become really desirous or envious of. And then what is the impact of that in our life? There's a way in which it almost makes us focus, being covetous makes us focus more on someone else than on perhaps the gifts or perhaps the changes that can take place in our own lives.
I think one of the, when you covet something or someone that's in another person's life, I think it diminishes ourself. In the last video, I mean, we were kind of bleeding a little bit to covetousness, and even for this, a little bit of false witness, but maybe coveting, it's more of a false witness for ourselves. We think less of ourselves when we covet the things that, or the relationships that other people have.
Yeah, perhaps it's not bearing true witness to all that is present in our life, all that God has given and provided for us.
And we'll get to this, but gratitude, I think, is then kind of the antidote. Gratitude, if we were to put this commandment in a positive way, I think it would just be grateful for the property in your life. Be grateful for the relationships in your life. That would be the positive expression of this commandment.
Absolutely. So what are some of the ways in which we fall into coveting?
Oh, well, there's a lot of, coveting. In some ways, whole media empires are leveraging our human tendency to covet. And a lot of people profit off of this.
Right, whether it's The Bachelor or, Chip and Joanna Gaines.
I mean coveting
from relationships
other people's,
to houses.
People coveting relationships. I mean, The Bachelor is a little bit more of a racy.
Yeah.
But I would even put Hallmark into, there's a lot of coveting that happens when people watch Hallmark, as innocent and innocuous as Hallmark can be. There's still a lot of coveting happening.
Right. It's playing up on that,
And so I think in some ways, there might be something innocuous in that. I mean, I think we have to believe that just because it's so ubiquitous. But I think we should have a little bit of pause, and just ask ourselves, how is this affecting me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm watching Chip and Joanna Gaines, every single week, and I just love to see those beautiful homes and that beautiful interior design. But ask that question, I have a home, I have a family, I have, parts of my life. Am I practicing gratitude for all of that?
Yeah.
And so I think we just need to ask ourselves more maybe self-reflective questions about all of this, and is it impacting us?
Yeah. Or at least, how do we strike a balance, between some of the media we consume that does, as you say, leverage the coveted nature of human beings at times, and how do we balance that with practices of gratitude and make sure we're doing, really living into the positive of this commandment?
Yeah. So, coveting kind of material things that someone else might have. Maybe it's a house, maybe it's a car. How is it maybe a little bit different when we're coveting? Because one of the commandments is don't covet your neighbor's spouse, don't covet their servants, don't covet their animals. How is the relational aspect of coveting a little different, or maybe it's similar?
That's a really good question.
I think we all, I think one of the dangers is that there's kind of a passivity, that, if I covet, if two people have, enjoy a friendship, and I covet that friendship, what the coveting is doing, I'm coveting that because it's coming from a place where I am desiring, friendship. I'm desiring to connect with another human being in a meaningful way. But when I covet that, when I see it in someone else, what that coveting does, in my experience, it kind of shuts me down from being friendly, to other people. So I think that's one of the ways that we kind of experience that, and it kind of gets in the way we just kind of become passive observers.
Right. Well, and I think that's perhaps the difference between relationships and possessions, is that relationships, as you point out, are living things. So they really take more of our investment than, our possessions do. And so, not being grateful for a day or two about our possessions, well, that's not going to hurt the possessions. But not being grateful about our relationships, and valuing what we have, if you're coveting someone else's marriage or another friendship, well, that's going to, with time, that's going to shift your thoughts negatively towards what you do have. And perhaps you're not investing, or you're passive in those relationships. So I think maybe it's just that there's even more potential for damage in that sense when it comes to the relationships, because they are living things that we do have to pour ourselves into to some extent.
Yeah.
And so, I think one of the places I see coveting being a real challenge is in family life these days, and that's amplified with social media too.
Yes.
But it's what programs and activities do you have your kids involved in? What academics are they taking? Are they in the accelerated courses? What school are they at? And there becomes this comparison factor. And
are they in YMCA T-ball or club T-ball?
Yeah, and that's for families. I think even our kids have that sense. Kids, I think today kids know exactly what rank they are in their class a lot of times, because we've gotten so analytical, social, but also even GPA. They know exactly what number they are in their class, and the way in which we've fallen into just comparisons of life, and that really can lead to, I think, a sense of coveting.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's another thing that makes coveting relationships unique, different than coveting like material things. It's that compare and contrast. I think it's perfectly human. We're all trying to discover ourselves. We're all trying to figure out, how do I fit in the world? But when we do that in a compare and contrast to other people, like, how am I compared to you? How am I compared to other pastors? How am I compared to other dads? How am I? That's not a helpful. We need another way to find our goodness and to be secure in our worth. And that's really the gift of faith. I mean, our worth comes from just the fact that we are God's children. We are made in the image of God, and God has poured in the Holy Spirit into our life in a very unique way. And that's where I want to find my security. That's where I want to find my dignity and my worth, and feel like I have something of value to share with the world. It's not if my kid is outperforming your kid. That's not going to end well for society, I think.
Right. Right. It certainly doesn't live into freedom. It
Right.
binds us in modes of comparison rather
it makes
than
us less free.
Allowing us each to live as free people with the gifts we've been given, right?
Yeah.
The graces we've been given.
And so, of course, social media is a little bit dovetailing into this.
Absolutely.
And the way, I don't know, maybe part of this commandment is there such thing as we want people to covet us?
Maybe.
I mean, is that kind of a weird expression of this commandment too? Like do we want to put our best foot
and
forward
get as many likes as
and get as many likes because we want people to covet us? I mean, that's pretty neurotic, but it's probably true.
Yeah.
But also not good.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't make us more free.
Well,
it doesn't make us freer to be, in fuller relationship with each other and fuller relationship in the community around us.
It doesn't make us more free, and it's interesting. Research is showing that depression rates and anxiety rates are up among our teens more than we've ever at least been aware of, but I think more than ever before.
Yes.
And part of that is the reality of media and portrayals of life, right? And that goes back to that false witness versus true witness. What does it mean to truthfully witness to our life on media, truthfully witness to life in media, rather than giving these slices of what's good or bad about people? And of course, when everybody's trying to curate their best life on media, then it really gives us all a false sense of the life we've been given, which, God never promises that our lives are going to be only joy. I mean, there's the reality is that we hold joys and sorrows and failures and successes in our lives, and to portray life as anything but that isn't really a faithful witness to the life that we've been called into.
Yeah, that's well said. And so, I mean, kind of what I mentioned earlier in the video, I think the antidote, or the spiritual wisdom is to practice gratitude. To look at our life and to say thank you. To look at the people that are already in our life, and to have some appreciation and gratitude that they are in our life, and to name the gifts and the blessings that they bring to my life, and to list our house and our cars and our job and opportunities that we have, and just give thanks for that and root us in reality, because that's reality. That's not some kind of fantasy that we're coveting. It's just, this is what's real about my life, and I want to be thankful for what already is, and I want to be more present.
And practicing gratitude for the great diversity that God provides. I don't have every single blessing in my life, but I have blessings. But I can also practice gratitude for the blessing in your life, right? And for the unique blessing in mine. And so it's being able to hold both at the same time, practicing gratitude for others and for what they're receiving, for the provision they have, and then to that gratitude for my life and what I've been given.
So be happy for the things and the relationships that other people have. Because maybe underneath coveting is and if that coveting is a form of jealousy, well, maybe there's a little anger there towards that person. And, what we really want to do is we want to try to tear or take away, something good, that they have. But, don't covet, give thanks for what's in our life, but also rejoice in the good things that other people have. And, and the diversity of that.
And that would be the positive form of this commandment.
Well, we've come to the end of a summer video series. We did it. Good job. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and it's felt very kind of natural, just having these conversations, and I hope that it's been beneficial. I hope it's been fruitful for you. I hope that you've gleaned and learned new insights about the commandments. I hope that you've memorized the 10 Commandments. Again, it's not that hard. Just memorize them, and then you'll be able to carry with them everywhere that you go. And I think that you'll find that they really do kind of pop up and kind of guide us in everyday moments more frequently than we expect. So thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, feedback, we want to hear that. And stick around. We're going to have another video series. We just haven't quite figured that out. Bye-bye.